Hey guys, welcome back to the Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people's story. Piece of my ranch is hard won, a daily symphony of nature and hard work. I never imagined it would be shattered by a man who thought my water tank was his personal inspection project. My family has owned this 320-acre cattle ranch for 3 generations. My grandfather bought it with money saved from years of working as a farmhand, and my father expanded it during his lifetime. When he passed away 4 years ago, I took over operations at the age of 28. Many people were surprised that I stepped up rather than selling the land, especially since I'd gone to college and worked in the city for a few years. But this land was in my blood. Running a ranch isn't easy. I'm up before dawn every day, checking on cattle, maintaining fences, managing pasture rotation, and handling all the business aspects too. The drought in our region over the past 2 years hasn't made things any easier. That's why I invested in a large water storage tank system last year. A significant expense, but crucial for keeping the cattle watered during dry spells. The main tank sits on a slight rise about half a mile from the house. It's a massive 10,000-gallon steel structure painted forest green to blend with the landscape. I spent weeks researching the right system and another month overseeing its installation, making sure everything was done correctly and to code. The tank connects to our well system and collects rainwater, making us more self-sufficient. Living in a rural area has always meant dealing with occasional trespassers, usually harmless hikers who wander off public trails or kids from nearby properties exploring. I've always been reasonable about it, just asking them politely to respect the property boundaries and pointing them in the right direction. I've got clear no trespassing and private property signs posted at regular intervals along the fence line and at both entrance gates. But what happened last Thursday was something else entirely. It was a clear autumn morning. I'd been up since 5 a.m., had already fed the cattle, and was enjoying a rare moment of peace at the kitchen table with my coffee, planning the day's work. My border collie, who's usually pretty quiet, started barking frantically at the window facing the north pasture. I looked out to see a shiny black SUV with tinted windows driving slowly along my private access road toward the water tank. The vehicle certainly wasn't mine, and I wasn't expecting any deliveries or visitors. I grabbed my hat and phone and headed out to investigate. By the time I reached the tank on my ATV, a middle-aged man in pressed khakis and a polo shirt was circling my water tank with a clipboard, taking notes and occasionally taking pictures with his phone. A woman about the same age stood nearby in designer sunglasses, filming the tank with her phone held out in front of her. I parked a short distance away and approached them calmly. "Excuse me, can I help you folks with something?" I asked. The man barely glanced up from his clipboard. "Just doing a routine inspection of this tank. Won't take long." I was momentarily stunned by his casual tone. "I'm sorry, but this is private property. Who are you with?" He sighed as if my question was an annoying interruption. "Look, we're concerned about water usage in this drought. This tank needs to be checked for compliance." His vague response raised several red flags. He wasn't wearing any uniform, didn't have any official vehicle markings, and hadn't introduced himself as being from any government agency. "Are you with the county water board or state environmental services?" I asked. The woman lowered her phone slightly. "We represent concerned citizens in this area. We have every right to make sure people aren't hoarding water illegally." I noticed she was still recording me. I maintained my composure but was growing increasingly irritated. "Actually, you don't have any right to be on my property without permission. This tank is fully permitted and was professionally installed last year." The man waved his hand dismissively. "That's what we're verifying. The previous owner always allowed inspections." That was a blatant lie. My father would never have allowed strangers to wander onto our property uninvited, and we'd been the only owners since my grandfather's time. "Sir, I'm the owner of this property," I stated firmly. "This ranch has been in my family for 3 generations. No one has ever been authorized to conduct unofficial inspections here." The woman lowered her sunglasses and looked me up and down with obvious skepticism. "You're the owner? You look awfully young to own all this." "I inherited it from my father 4 years ago," I explained, though I didn't owe them any explanation. "Now I need to ask you both to leave immediately. You're trespassing." The man scoffed. "Trespassing? We're providing a community service. Do you know how many illegal water systems there are in this county? Someone has to keep an eye on things." "And that someone isn't you," I countered. "If there are legitimate concerns about water usage, the proper authorities handle that. They identify themselves, schedule visits, and present credentials." The woman had turned her camera directly toward my face now. "We're documenting your uncooperative attitude. All we're trying to do is ensure community resources aren't being abused." "What you're doing is trespassing," I repeated. "I've asked you politely to leave. Please return to your vehicle and exit my property the same way you came in." Instead of complying, the man walked closer to the tank and started tapping on it with his knuckles. This tank might not be up to the new regulations. I'm seeing potential issues with the overflow system and questionable structural integrity. This was absurd. The tank was brand new and installed to exceed all county requirements. "Sir, step away from my tank," I said more firmly. "You are not authorized to touch anything on this property." The woman's voice became louder, clearly performing for her phone camera. "We're being harassed for trying to protect local water resources. This is what happens when people don't want to be held accountable." The man turned to face me directly for the first time. "Look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We're finishing our inspection. Your attitude is only making this more difficult than it needs to be." I took a deep breath and decided on my next move. "Since you refused to leave after multiple requests, I'm calling the sheriff's department. This is your final opportunity to leave voluntarily." "Go ahead and call," the woman challenged. "We'll explain how you're trying to hide something. Why else would you be so resistant to a simple inspection?" I pulled out my phone and began recording them, making sure to capture their faces, the license plate on their SUV, and the fact that they were standing on my clearly marked private property. The man took a step toward me, but I maintained my distance. "What do you think you're doing?" he demanded. "The same thing you're doing, documenting." I then dialed the sheriff's department while continuing to record. When the dispatcher answered, I calmly explained the situation. "I have 2 trespassers on my ranch who are refusing to leave after multiple requests. They're near my water storage tank claiming to be conducting some kind of inspection, but have shown no credentials and appear to have no official capacity. They're becoming confrontational, and I need assistance removing them from my property." The dispatcher asked me for my address and informed me that deputies would be dispatched shortly. During the 15 minutes we waited for the sheriff's deputies to arrive, the entitled couple became increasingly agitated. The man continued his inspection, now more dramatically, claiming to find all sorts of imaginary problems with my perfectly functioning tank. "This valve system is completely outdated," he announced, pointing to a brand new pressure regulator, "and this weld seam is showing signs of weakness." He was pointing at a factory-finished joint that was in perfect condition. "Since you claim to be such an expert," I said, "what specific regulations are you checking for compliance? Under what authority are you conducting this inspection? Can you cite the relevant county codes?" He faltered momentarily. "The water conservation statutes clearly state that all storage facilities must be regularly monitored." "Which statute specifically? Can you quote the relevant section?" I pressed. The woman interjected, "We don't have to justify ourselves to you. We know our rights." "Actually, on private property, you very much do have to justify your presence when asked to leave," I countered. "That's basic trespassing law." She switched tactics. "Do you have any idea who we are? My husband sits on several important community boards. We can make things very difficult for you." I kept my phone recording. "Is that a threat?" Before they could respond, 2 sheriff's department vehicles pulled up along my access road. 2 deputies got out and approached us. The entitled couple's demeanor changed instantly. The woman lowered her phone and the man adopted a friendly smile, extending his hand toward the first deputy. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. We were just conducting a community water usage survey when this person became extremely hostile," the man said. The deputy didn't shake his hand. "I'm Deputy Collins. This is Deputy Martinez. We received a report of trespassing at this location. There's been a misunderstanding." The woman jumped in. "We're with the Community Water Watch Alliance. We monitor usage during the drought to ensure compliance." Deputy Martinez looked skeptical. "May I see some identification from both of you? And any credentials for this organization you mentioned?" While they fumbled for their driver's licenses, Deputy Collins came over to speak with me. I explained the situation, showing him the video I'd recorded of them refusing to leave and making veiled threats. "Do you have no trespassing signs posted?" he asked. "Yes, all along the fence line and at both entrance gates. They drove past at least 4 signs to get to this location." After examining everyone's IDs and hearing both sides of the story, the deputies conferred briefly. Deputy Collins then addressed the couple. "The property owner has confirmed that you have no permission to be here and has asked you to leave multiple times. There's no record of any official Community Water Watch Alliance registered with the county. What you're doing constitutes criminal trespassing." "But we're concerned citizens," the woman protested. "We have a right to ensure water conservation laws are being followed." "No, ma'am, you don't have that right on private property," Deputy Martinez stated firmly. "Only authorized government officials can conduct such inspections and they must follow proper procedures, including advance notification." The man tried a different approach. Look, officers, I'm on the board of the neighborhood association for the new development just 2 miles east. We're just trying to be good neighbors and make sure everyone's doing their part during the drought. Deputy Collins wasn't having it. Sir, being on a neighborhood board gives you no authority whatsoever outside your development, especially not on private ranch land. Based on what we've seen and heard today, we're issuing you both citations for criminal trespass, and you're being formally warned not to return to this property. The entitled couple looked stunned as they were handed their citations. The woman started to protest again, but her husband finally seemed to realize the seriousness of their situation and quieted her. You have the option to contest these citations in court, Deputy Martinez explained. But right now, you need to return to your vehicle and leave this property immediately. If you return without the owner's permission, you will face arrest and more serious charges. This is absurd. We'll be filing complaints about this treatment, the woman declared as they were escorted back to their SUV. That's your right, ma'am, Deputy Collins replied calmly. Please exit the property now. After they drove away, I thanked the deputies for their prompt response. No problem, Deputy Collins said. We get these types sometimes, especially with the new developments pushing closer to ranch lands. Folks move in from the city and think they've got authority over the whole area. Have you had issues with these two before? I asked. Not these specific individuals, but we've had complaints about people from that new development. Some of them formed an unofficial community watch that's been overstepping boundaries, Deputy Martinez explained. They've been warned before about approaching properties outside their jurisdiction. Before leaving, the deputies advised me to keep my camera system running and to call immediately if the couple or anyone else returned uninvited. They also suggested I might want to install a gate with a lock at the entrance to my access road. The next morning, I drove into town to pick up supplies and stopped by the county records office. A quick search confirmed my suspicions. The man who had trespassed on my property was indeed on the board of the new housing development, a luxury community called that had been built on former farmland nearby. They had been having water pressure issues due to poor infrastructure planning, and instead of addressing their problems properly, they'd been looking for scapegoats. I also discovered that their Community Water Watch Alliance wasn't any kind of registered organization, just a fancy name for their informal neighborhood busybody committee. They had no authority whatsoever to inspect anyone's property. The following week brought an unexpected development. I received an email notification about a post in the area's community forum where the entitled woman had shared a heavily edited clip from her phone recording. The post claimed they were accosted by an aggressive rancher while volunteering for water conservation efforts. Fortunately, several community members who knew me or understood property rights quickly commented in my defense. One former sheriff's deputy explained clearly that what they had done was illegal trespassing, regardless of their stated intentions. But the real justice came 2 days later when one of my neighbors who serves on the county water board called me. Just wanted to let you know, he said. That couple who trespassed on your place showed up at the board meeting last night trying to file a formal complaint about your water tank. They claimed it was improperly installed and that you were hostile when they tried to help you understand the violations. What happened? I asked. Well, first our records show your tank was properly permitted and inspected last year. Second, I recognized them from your description and asked if they were the same people who received trespassing citations last week. The look on their faces was priceless. The board chairman informed them that filing false reports could result in penalties, and if they had genuine concerns about water usage, there are proper channels to address them. This gave me some satisfaction, but the story doesn't end there. About a month later, I received notice that the entitled couple had contested their trespassing citations in court. I was asked to appear as a witness with my video evidence. On the court date, I arrived early with my documentation and video footage. The entitled couple showed up with a lawyer looking confident. Their confidence quickly evaporated when their lawyer, after reviewing my unedited video and the deputy's report, took them aside for a hushed conversation. When the hearing began, instead of contesting the citations, they changed their plea to no contest and agreed to pay the fines. The judge also issued a formal order prohibiting them from entering my property again without explicit written permission. As we left the courtroom, I overheard another resident from their neighborhood telling them, "You've embarrassed our entire community with this behavior. The board will be discussing your position at the next meeting." Since then, I've installed a locked gate at the entrance to my access road and upgraded my security cameras. I haven't seen the entitled couple again, but I did hear through the local grapevine that the man was voted off his neighborhood board position due to the negative attention he brought to their community. The peace of my ranch has returned, my cattle are healthy, my tank continues to store water efficiently through the drought, and two entitled trespassers learned that because I want to isn't a legal right of entry. As we say out here, good fences make good neighbors, and now I have both the fences and the legal boundaries to prove it. The next one is a pro-revenge story. This is something that happened to my grandfather. To understand him, he was a quality control engineer for a pretty major manufacturing firm, and he was a master of aggressively renegotiating deals. He was and is a strict taskmaster, not entitled or unreasonable, but if something went wrong, there would be hell to pay. So he decided that he wanted to renovate his home, take the moderately big 2-story house, and add 2 new bedrooms and a master bath. He brings in a contractor and gets a quote, says as part of the work they'll need to completely refinish the front too. Grandfather agrees and they start work. It's a serious effort, winds up carving open the whole front of the house and all sorts of madness. Things go well enough at first, the destruction goes smoothly. Then start construction. At first things were just slow going, sluggish delivery from sources, slow permits from the city, you get the idea. Then things get silly. It took them over 3 months to start and finish the plumbing, 4 months for the insulation. My grandfather is paying for a lot of time and not a lot of work done. He's irritated about the speed, but besides making some noise, there's not really much to be done about it. Bit by bit, the house starts to come together. Then, as they're putting on the weatherproofing, an inspector comes in and puts a stop to the whole affair. The contractor had improperly filed the plans. Now, my grandfather is pretty furious by this point, but he keeps a cool enough head, starts asking what's going to be done about it with the contractor. The thinking was that they redraft the plans and send them out for reapproval. Contractor says he'll do it. 5 months go by. The house is just sitting there, fancy new framework still hanging in the breeze. Then all of a sudden, the contractor says he's pulling out. He had no idea the hell he'd unleashed. My grandfather didn't just jump straight to suing him. Oh no, sir. He took his time before even getting a lawyer. He did his homework. He tracked down every single client that this guy had had for the last 3 years and did a deep dive on the books to figure out what the hell happened. Turns out that this wasn't an isolated incident, just the most egregious. As it happens, this contractor had a penchant for screwing people over, turning minor reno jobs into complete dumpster fires. His modus operandi was to file the changes with the city, make a private second set of plans, start making things based off the second set, intentionally let the city halt the construction, then restart the project on a third draft. After talking to some of the other customers, he and 8 of the other victims collectively filed charges against him. They annihilated this guy. They took every cent he had, which wasn't that much. His scheme hadn't actually done him that much good. Liquidated his company, sent him to something like 15 years in prison for fraud, and got the state to help recoup expenses. 2 months later, a new contracting company blitzed my grandfather's renovations and he was able to drink in his master suite to toast his revenge. The next one is a malicious compliances story. I work for a major US airline for a long time and at several different airports. There's an area behind the baggage counter where the bags get sorted for their respective flights after they've been checked. We're on our feet most of the time, but we each have chairs at our workstations so we can sit and rest for a minute when there's a lull in bags coming down. Every few years, there'll be a hot crap new manager who's going to turn this airport around and make it the best performing one in the system, and they all seem to have the same idea. Take away the chairs so the agents are always standing at the belt. Now, the agents in this area are generally on the senior side as it's indoors and out of the elements. We've done the job for a while. We know how to do the job efficiently, and we really do our best to avoid duck-ups, but as long as human error is a factor, there will always be some. Taking our chairs does nothing but piss us off. Their bullcrap excuse usually is framing it as a safety issue, a tripping hazard. So that's where we start. Smaller or oddly shaped bags get sent down in a plastic tub so they don't jam the belt. Maybe you've seen them. We take them off the belt and stack them up on the ground for someone to come by and collect. Not anymore. We let them pile up on the belt, making it a giant pain in the ass for the poor bastard collecting them. They're idioting constantly to the manager. We say, sorry boss, they're a tripping hazard on the ground. Next, we start following the rules. Our employee handbook lays out very clearly what the company's expectations for us are in our job duties. We're only expected to pull 1 bag per minute and take bags out no later than 20 minutes before the flight departs. Maybe you've guessed already, but those expectations are nowhere near good enough to actually complete these tasks, so by the company's own rules, we were already going well beyond what was expected of us. We start giving them the bare minimum, 1 bag per minute, 20 minutes prior. Manager was pissed, he and the supervisors were throwing bags, and us being unionized, we documented and grieved every single time it happened, and the company a few days later had to pay out several thousand to agents for covered work. Delays across the board, 1,500 bags missed that day. The next morning, the chairs were back in their spots and we continued as normal, and afterwards, no one would give that manager the time of day. A lot of passengers got ducked over that day, but we were working exactly to the rules our company had given us, so you can blame the airline and not the agents. The handbook was changed after a while, but only extending it to 35 minutes prior instead of 20. It's still 1 bag per minute last I looked. I was lucky enough to be a part of 3 of these events over the years, but this was the most satisfying. The next one is an entitled people story. For those that don't know me, Barbara was once my best friend. We got married to our husbands in a double ceremony because Barbara's psycho mother Karen ruined her own wedding by canceling services after she tried to destroy my own wedding, and Barbara revoked her invite. Barbara and her husband moved in with my husband and I, but she tried to sleep with my husband, essentially destroying her marriage. It was discovered that Barbara and her mother had rekindled their relationship, and Karen was giving Barbara drugs to keep her compliant. There's so much to the story, so if you're curious, go read my previous posts. For those that do know me, just know that I am doing well. If you want more of an update on my life, let me know and I'll post something on my profile. A lot has happened in the last 2 years, but just so I don't bog this post down with a lot of unrelated information, I'll keep it to the topic at hand. Anyway, on to why you clicked onto this post. Just so you know, this is not a happy ending type of post. About a month ago, I got a call from Jeff, Barbara's ex-boyfriend. I hadn't heard from him in a while, so when I saw his name pop up on my phone, I knew something was up. I dreaded what I was about to hear, but of course curiosity killed the cat. Jeff told me that after Barbara attacked me, she had gone into hiding, and even he had a hard time trying to find her, but every so often she would show up and demand money or a place to sleep for the night. As quickly as she arrived, she was gone, and he wouldn't hear anything for a while after that. Eventually, he got so tired of being used that the next time she did show up, he flat out refused to just give her money but offered to get her back into rehab if she wanted it. Of course, that led to a massive fight, and she assaulted him by throwing a brick at him. He had to get stitches in his head, and he had a minor concussion from the ordeal and a nasty bruise. He's okay, if a little shaken from the experience. He filed a police report, which only added to her list of charges that she was racking up with every incident. He's finally realized that Barbara is a lost cause and not worth the tears or agony. I feel for him as he reminds me of myself a few years ago. Too trusting, too compassionate, too stupid. There wasn't much I could do to help as my family and I no longer live in the same state, but I made a few calls to some people that might be able to get a lead on where Barbara could be hiding out at. Now that her ex was no longer feeding her money, she would have to find a new way to get it. I was actually worried. They promised to call me back when they heard something. Have you ever gotten that feeling in the deepest pit of your stomach that something bad is about to happen? That was exactly the feeling I got after I got off the phone with the last friend. I just knew that this was going to turn out badly. I just didn't know how. I hadn't heard anything in weeks, so I assumed that Barbara just hadn't surfaced, but I got a call last night from a nurse at the hospital in the state Barbara lived. I was still listed as an emergency contact for Barbara, which we both did for each other back when we first moved to that city, just in case my ex-husband or her mother wasn't available. I had changed mine, but I guess she hadn't changed hers. I was told that Barbara was brought into the ER with serious injuries. They were so severe she was unrecognizable, and she was put on a ventilator and kept in a medically induced coma while they contacted Barbara's mother Karen, who is currently incarcerated for what she did to me a few years ago. When given the prognosis, Karen made the decision that Barbara was to be taken off the ventilator. Barbara died not long after. With Barbara dead, the nurse was able to tell me more of what injuries Barbara had sustained. It was gruesome and not something I would wish on my worst enemy. Despite how angry at Karen I still am, I feel for her a little. She just lost her only child and she can't do anything from prison. I would call and try talking to her myself, but it's a bad idea. Despite feeling a little bad, I hate the woman for this. Barbara dying is entirely on her shoulders. It pisses me off that she is the next of kin and the one who was given the decision to make. I'm conflicted. I gave the nurse a few phone numbers for Barbara's family members back in the old state I met her in, hoping they might be able to help with funeral arrangements. Right now, I'm sorting through my emotions. Barbara may have had a lot of problems, but none of it is really her fault. She had been failed by her mother and was used as a pawn in Karen's games. I also feel partially responsible. None of this is right. I'm going to speak to my therapist and get some help with processing all of this. It's like a knife in the heart. I wanted so badly for Barbara to get the help she needs and get back to her old self again, but now it's too late. I called Barbara's ex-husband Dave and told him what happened. He took it hard. Despite being divorced, he still loved her enough to care. He's going to help with arranging the funeral with her family. My husband and I talked and debated on whether or not we should go. Ultimately, we agreed I would go and he would stay and take care of the kids. I wish this was a better ending, but unfortunately it's not. Thanks for reading, Reddit fam. Edit to add, some people in the comments want to believe that this stuff never happens, but it does. Reddit is the one place I was able to secure anonymity to protect myself and my kids. Believe me, I wish this were all just some fake story, but it's very real and I still suffer trauma and panic attacks from what I have gone through. I am thankfully in a good place mentally due to lots of therapy, but I have a long way to go before I can consider my emotional wounds healed. Someone in the comments asked why I am still involved. I wasn't. For years, I hadn't spoken to Jeff or Dave or anyone from my past except a handful of people from time to time as a courtesy thing. I was happy and content with putting it all behind me, but when Jeff called me last month, I couldn't just walk away. He is a good person and wanted to see the best in Barbara. I can't blame him because I did too at one point. It's deeply sad that some people just can't be saved despite your best efforts. People like Barbara can only change when they want to, and she was too deep into addiction for that. Another thing is that because I was listed as an emergency contact for Barbara, the hospital was able to give me information regarding her condition. I worded my post wrong, so my mistake. I meant to say that when I asked after she died, I was told everything. I didn't ask what happened as I was still in shock from the news, and they asked if she had any family they could call. I told them about her mother. Their director called me back after they spoke to her, and she had given the okay for the ventilator to be shut off. It is their policy that non-family members, regardless of status, are given decisional capacity when family members aren't available. Once it was confirmed Barbara had passed, they gave me the rest of the information when I asked for it. Sorry if this confused anyone, I'm still processing. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.